Aspetta, che ti stavo vedendo. Ho la parola in papel. Cosa c'è un giovane? Che non so come... Sì, ja sai, ja man che non mi sembra così. Vedete, non doveva, non doveva, non può che si sa vedere se è che bene dopo. Una volta,
Non comunque tra.
poi guarda, ik heb jou even naar de kant geplaatst. Als je blijft staan, dan zie je zo nog gebeuren, omdat die baan is dus. Mensen kunnen doen, die wel hier, dat ben jij dan. Moet wel ook vanuit. En vandaag kijk je het beste jelly naar, die heb ik toch gedaan gehad.
Ja.
Die andere heb je nog op die plank in staan, toch? Die rollen, die komen om. En dan die je vragen, dat is 5 denk ik. Dat is morgen. Dus ik ga op. Is jelly, ja, dat is maar die heb je openstaan ook, dat is je hebt. Ik ga maar naar de winkel.
Oké. Ja.
Ik kon het niet aanzetten, was 4 kwartoenen. En daarboven, linksboven, heb je de bank. Dan kan je eruit. Dat was gewoon zo goed. Kijk, waar kwam ik? Kom maar kijken.
Zie je de uitgang?
Moet je die hebben? We zijn uitgaan.
Ja.
Ik heb een binnenblijven. Dus dat je al weer doen.
Hè?
Laat het voorbeeld. Laat het voorbeeld. Leuk, ja. We zitten nog leuk. We zijn net al. Linksaf zo. Ja, linksaf, daaraan. Hier, en hier. En dan weer naar binnen. Dus hier, daar rechts. Rechts, linksaf, met de weg.
Oh.
Het is allemaal klaar. Hier al even afbouwen gemaakt. Maar dat moet weer paard zijn doen. Het is ook gemaakt. Dat komt er niet uit. De oriënteren is alleen boven. Kijk, daar heb je die voetbal, die kan je aanklikken. Ja, die rechts er wel wat. Die kan je aanklikken.
Ja,
die vertelt die aan de rechts wat, dan worden we ons. Dan moet jij dat wat zoeken. Ik wil het maar zo. Die grote kant, met waar die aanklikken. Ja, sommige van die kan je aanklikken. Kijk eens aan de achterkant. De pensie is. Door die houtje kan dat ook van mijn huis. Die kan je aanklikken.
What we do.
Oké, klik maar aan. Ja, je staat er niet bij, maar de intocht, hier, dus dat is natuurlijk wel of zo. Ik kom hier af en toe wat staat er. Want de meters staan, er staat ook. Oké, nou ja, die aan de aanrijd. Kijk maar, het is wel, want.
Ja.
En je wou eruit, ik zal niet aan, maar bij jou of niet worden. En anders druk je gewoon op je aanstel, hè, je tas, dat komt niet bij. Nee. Ja, die aanstel hier, of wat druk je. Kom je die staan aan hoor.
Okay.
Speak quickly. What now? This had better be good. Our enemy is abound. I am forsaken. Watch your back.
What did you want to start about the
Songs 10, volume 23. Or making fun of the situation. Like, look at this graph right here. You see how it's pretty much zero, and then just in the last year, completely exploding. Well, what is this graph? Well, this is the Google Trends for GitHub alternatives. Normally, GitHub suck, but this is a little different. Okay, I want you to take a look at this. Okay, this picture right here is nothing but this is the fear from Microsoft. 3 years, probably something different. This is something completely different. The most terrifying things they've seen in years. Now, you're not probably online and not in your news, which a lot of you say that. That's the case. And this is what you're probably going, well, what's so scary? So scary about a little anime waifu, because we all know what happens when you see an anime waifu, right? Either whatever's coming up next is going to be just single-handedly the dumbest thing you've ever heard in your entire lifetime, or from the most cracked engineer you've ever seen in your lifetime. Well, it turns out it's the second one. It's very, very cracked, because what you're seeing is the Nightmare Eclipse account. 6 0 days and 6 weeks and one big group. This individual is releasing 0 days that are absolutely devastating once a week for the last 6 weeks. They just got done being banned off of GitHub. They are losing and being deplatformed constantly by releasing these huge 0 days. Now, if you're anything like me, you probably go, okay, well, like releasing 0 days, that's bad, right? I mean, I'm not a huge security guy, so I can't tell you a lot about security. But I can tell you that it seems bad, right? Releasing out stuff that fits just your average mom and pop that passing their assets. So yeah, that sounds pretty bad. But when you start learning about this story, when you start learning about Microsoft, I think you're going to be a little bit surprised, and maybe you'll go, oh, this story is a bit different. Now, before we get to the Nightmare Eclipse anime waifu, we first need to say thank you to the sponsors. I know a lot of you have agents, and you're letting them run around on the internet on your computer. Stop it! That's the easiest way to shoot yourself in the foot. This is why you need today's video sponsor, Kernel.sh. The crazy fast and open source infra for your AI agents to access the internet. It takes under 30 milliseconds to spin up 1 or 1,000 cloud browsers for your agent, and authentication is automatically handled. Right now, over 3,000 teams already use this in production, including Framer and Cash App. So quit nerfing your agents and give them a real browser. Head on over to Kernel.sh and let them use the internet. Oh, welcome back. First, let's just learn a little bit about kind of the backstory of what's going on. And then we're going to see some of the reactions, which is going to make you kind of have a 180 about what's going on. So first off, Nightmare Eclipse, Dead Eclipse, Chaotic Eclipse, or just Eclipse, is a malicious actor who has released 6 Windows 0-day exploits since early April 2026 in what multiple researchers described as an escalating retaliatory campaign against Microsoft. Eclipse doesn't fit neatly into the traditional threat intelligence categories. They don't appear to be seeking progress, advancing a social cause, or pursuing geopolitical objectives. In other words, just pure chaos. Live there for the love of the game. Leading up to be a single security researcher driven by a personal vengeance, deliberately unleashing danger is that others are now using real-world attacks. Defenders researchers should respond to Nightmare Eclipse as seriously as any other threat actor, even though they operate alone and outside the usual ecosystem. And of course, the ones that are exploiting blue, undefended, yellow key, green plasma, mini plasma, and several of them unpatched. If you're interested more in kind of some of the backstory and how they're coming up with the names, you can check out the link in the description. But the part that's pretty interesting is that the actor identity is unknown. But people believe this is an insider. They believe it is a former Microsoft employee. Eclipse also alleges that personnel directly threatened them from Microsoft's Security Response Center. I was told personally by them that they will ruin my life, and they did. All right, so that's kind of where we stand on what we know about this situation. And so for me, I was, you can see that there's some sort of personal grievance, some sort of vendetta going on here. But still, I still kind of feel bad about 0 days being released, just proof of concept right into the wild, because people will end up getting hurt. Granted, that's still true, but now I'm starting to learn a lot of things about Microsoft's Security Response Center. I think you should probably know about them too. Last time I dealt with Microsoft Security Response Center, I found a command injection vulnerability present for a decade in context menus. Not highly critical, but still exploitable. MSRC did not reward the bounty, nor did they attribute a CVE to this finding because it doesn't meet their criteria as vulnerability that requires an immediate security update. However, it was fixed a month later in Windows 11. So taking credit and pretending like it's not a big deal and not paying somebody. My last submission to MSRC was for a Defend Guard bypass. I learned my lesson from prior drawn-out submissions, so I included a 90-day window that MSRC responded saying that I had met their bar and they would fix it. But asked me to withhold disclosure for another 90 days because they needed a few extra months to fix it. I agreed on the condition that they issue a CVE, to which they agreed after the agreed upon patch Tuesday, a few months later. I couldn't find any mention in the CVE list, so I reached out to MSRC to inquire. It turns out they changed their minds, deciding it did not meet their bar for servicing, yet patched it anyways. Since it didn't meet their bar, they didn't issue a CVE. MSRC struck me along a few extra months to keep me quiet and then broke their word. So again, they effectively strung somebody along and didn't give them credit, effectively refusing to pay them. Kind of seems like a little bit of a reoccurring thing, don't you think? Last time I dealt with MSRC, responsibly disclosed an issue with a legacy auth that allowed me to spray passwords at redacted endpoint and avoid smart logout. Received an email 5 months after initial case opening. Doesn't meet the bar for servicing. Microsoft silently fixed and closed the case. You know, it's almost like we're starting to see a pattern here. And if you check out VX Underground, apparently there's maybe a little bit more that we don't understand. It turns out that Microsoft's Security Response Center is actually somehow this center that is just really disservicing the security researchers out there. They are completely ignoring them and or they're just taking their work, silently fixing it, not responding, doing all stuff that just massively decentralizes the entire security research world. And this has been going on for years. It's been going on for so long. Now, look at this right here. This is in August of 2023. Okay, this is 3 years ago. Last week, Senator Rod Wyden sent a letter to the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, the Department of Justice, and Federal Trade Commission asking they hold Microsoft accountable for repeated pattern of negligent cybersecurity practices, which has enabled the Chinese espionage against the United States government. According to the data from Google Project Zero, Microsoft products have accounted for an aggregate 42.5% of all 0 days discovered since 2014. So it turns out this has been going on for years. They are negligent. They have been, the government has been getting involved now. And people are just absolutely fed up. So whatever has happened to Nightmare Eclipse, obviously there's probably a bigger backstory than we realize. That we may not get the entire story, but we do know how Microsoft is going to respond. A shared responsibility, protecting customers through coordinated vulnerability disclosure. In other words, you need to do these kind of responsible disclosures, or else whatever they say in here is going to happen. Now, they obviously are acknowledging this Eclipse vulnerabilities that have been happening. In recent weeks, several of the vulnerabilities have been publicly disclosed. So if you go down here, you can see that they list out a couple of those there, including no links to green plasma or mini plasma. But even further down right here, look at this line. Our disenfranchised unit will continue bringing cases against these actors and those that enable criminal activity coordinated as needed with law enforcement around the world. In other words, if you don't responsibly disclose, they're going to bring the long hand of justice against you. They're being like, yo, it's actually a crunch enough to tell us where we have messed up. We're probably going to completely disincentivize people. We're probably going to take their work. We're probably not going to give them credit as we have on multiple occasions. We're probably not going to give them money. But you know what? If you don't do right by us, then that's actually evil, wrong, and deserves to be punished, and you should be thrown in some sort of concrete box with metal hooks. Because you're the bad person. You know, me, just being like a complete novice. I'm a complete novice in this area. I don't know how to hack it. I one time found a vulnerability that was super, super duper massive, but that's because I stumbled ass backwards into it. Completely by accident. I've never really done any sort of serious security researching, and so I don't actually understand the world that's out there. But from all the private messages I have received, even about this specific topic, Microsoft has been hands down dealing people dirty for over a decade. It appears, at least. That's if I have to believe all the stories I've been told from quite credible people. Anyways, I want to make this video because I feel like it's just super unfair how they're treating people. And
Next game, 19. Real game Denver News game by D-9A. In prime time, 1 hour, 55 minutes, 57 seconds.
okay, hey. You're listening to the love of the game. Okay. The name is the fun. It's just good. We can still do the original thing, which I'll have to go look up if you want to.
No. I have to look at it.
Because this is what we did. So, do you know what Devon AI is?
Only because I've seen like parts of your screen where you've been using it. That's why.
Okay. So Devon AI is obviously this like fully autonomous agent that we give it English requests and it goes and it's code base and it makes PRs. So we automated that process. We automated the automated by making it so when because it turns out Devon cannot push to master. If you tell it to push to master, it's just like it'll just say it's pushing and then just stop working altogether.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we made it so that when it pushes, if the actor in the GitHub CI is Devon, it just automatically merges it right into master. So we just kind of pushed master by cheating. And then what I did is that I allowed Twitch chat every effectively 3 minutes to send it a message.
Okay.
And Twitch chat built a game.
Now, using by sort of indirectly influencing Devil AI's behavior to get to this game.
To get to this game. And so this was I believe it's 126 commits or 126 pull requests merged in to this game over the course of approximately 8 hours of a command every 3 minutes.
Okay.
So a pretty good amount of effort and work went into this amazing game. I didn't actually do any specific checks here. Hold on 1 second. Fine. Let me just like this really quickly. Find everything the word JS in it. 1,300 lines in 8 hours was created.
Okay. Not bad by Devin there.
Yeah, not bad. Also, there was some HTML. Another 200 lines of HTML. So like a lot of things happen. So that means some CSS and inline JavaScript, and then all the other stuff that goes with it. So like a good amount of work went into this.
Now, just so that I have some awareness of Devin AI in general, I don't really know much about it. Did you specifically ask Devin to do this in JavaScript and HTML, or did Devin choose that? Did you just say game and his go-to was JavaScript?
So great question. We chose it this way because if I didn't, I would somehow probably get my system deleted. I'm not that good of creating containers. So instead, this allows us to have GitHub use their pages. So I can do this whole the private gen GitHub game. Oh, this is the other one. This is the one they created yesterday for me.
Okay. Oh, I love that. I love that pulsing tab.
There's so many development suckers. And so this is what they created right here. It's this beautiful game. And if I call it automation this way. Fine. So it's a Doom-like game. I can shoot.
I see.
And you can see that the bullets are very weird. And after my computer, my controls are in the Dvorak. That's a animator gun. And I can shoot it dead.
Is it?
And look at that, you got the mini map. Look at how it kind of goes through the wall a little bit until it sees this amount and it disappears.
And it kind of has a.
Yeah, and it's slowly coming towards me. And as I move, you can even see the mini map up in the corner where chat is. You can actually see where all the bad guys are. So there's a bad guy right here-ish. So if I spray, you can see it comes into view. And I should have 2 over here facing the mini map.
So, what did it add the weird crap falling down on the side of the screen too? What's that?
Okay. Twitch chat had 8 hours to make whatever they want, and they decided to make fire and cheese.
Okay. So this was requested to the AI. This is fire cheese.
Doesn't count.
Yeah. And so now this is the automated player. They also added an automated player that just moves randomly and shoots at. And if you run into enough of these ghosts or these hot anime waifus, if you run into enough of them, you will actually die and you'll have to reset the game. So here soon. It'd be fun. There's you've probably seen a few games in your day. You've probably read through some code in your day.
Okay.
What if you decided that you would like to look over the code generated? And we can see
Okay.
how does this match? What does the game look like? What did Devin produce? How's the math look? How's the physics organized? Are we looking pretty good or is it complete rubbish?
Okay. Sure. I mean, let's, I guess we're both viewing Devin here. First, I guess I would like to say to Devin, good job getting something running. I mean, you know, are we still touching ghosts? I can do something like what?
Yeah, this is Doom with anime waifus. That's like what the premise of the game that Twitch decided to make.
Well, I don't know if it's Doom with anime movies. That might be a stretch, but it is some flaw balls with a ghost creature, and that's something.
No, it is Doom, and that's anime. Wait.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm not familiar with that much anime, so I'm sure it's just my unfamiliarity with constantly missing this hot waifu as a ghost creature.
Yeah, you're just uncultured, is what you're trying to say. You're uncultured swine. So
I'm very sorry. I apologize.
yeah, I apologize to all the weebs. Not that they're actually going to hear about this or be upset enough to do anything about it. They're
Yeah.
So all right. So now that you kind of have the idea of it, Jack decided to name it Chessie. Chelsea 2, by the way. It's not they actually made Chelsea yesterday, and Chelsea 2. We made that name. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Chat one, that can figure it out. Comment, Chelsea 2.
Alright, so obviously there's a lot of JavaScript going on here. There's like some initialization of a canvas, some target frame rate stuff, a big state object. So, I mean, that seems like you kind of recommended me on a simple game to make a big state object and just not throw everything on there for ease of use.
Can I ask a question already?
Yeah.
So, how did it choose to implement that target FPS?
Well, I think because at one point it was 30, and then chat said that the frame rate sucks, and so it just said doubled for smoother gameplay.
No, but I mean, how did they implement target FPS? I'm assuming they used like a callback, callback in like I want.
Oh yeah, so let's see. You're about to see, my friend. Okay, it's gonna be a thing of beauty. Okay, so let's just go straight into the game loop. Okay, so the game.
Request animation frame. That's what I was wondering. There it is.
Yeah. So we do a request animation frame. So it does a game loop. And apparently, I didn't even realize this, but the request animation frame, every single time it's called back, it actually has a callback. I actually didn't even notice that there's a callback that apparently does, that provides in the current timestamp at the moment. I didn't even know that, so that's pretty cool.
Yes, I've written this exact code before. I mean, not this exact code, because this is a little weird, but the request animation frame with the timestamp. That's what I was wondering what it did. But that's correct. That's what you would do if you want to make a game in JavaScript. So off to a good start.
Off to a good start. I'm not exactly sure the precise timings of a request animation frame. I assume it's timed to your frame range of some sort, or I assume it's not just deadlocked to 60.
So request animation frame I don't think has any guarantees. It's just a thing that says, as soon as possible, please call me back. So if you want to keep like when you prepare your frame, if your goal is to continue to provide updates, you call request animation frame when you're done. If you're paused or like not doing anything and you're just gonna wait for some music, but then you don't pause. That's basically how it works. and then you use the timestamp to figure out how long it was, because you don't really get to say.
Yeah. But yeah, my general, I thought, I was confused. I couldn't remember if request animation frame simply calls when there's nothing left in the process event list, or if it actually waits for like some 16 milliseconds or some appropriate amount of time to be called back to do the next animation. But either way, it doesn't really matter. A nice little game loop right here, right? It calls game loop. If we haven't waited enough time, then we request animate. We just keep on waiting some async amount of time. And the moment we do actually pass, we're like, all right, here we are. Here this does some canvas clearing. And then the first thing it does is it draws walls.
Okay. Well, I mean, it probably, so the problem here is Devin probably doesn't know how to do like the depth sort here, which is since the canvas is going to support debuggers. So, you know, it's got this problem of it's got these ghost enemies, right? And it needs to insert them into the draw order somewhere, and Devin probably doesn't know how to sort like the Doom world. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think I'm seeing what you're attempting to say. But yes, it starts by just rendering all the walls.
Yeah, which isn't going to work, obviously. This is why you have to do that. The ghost disappears thing.
Yeah, and then it renders all the enemies.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it's probably not disappear.
Yeah,
Because it can't partially render the enemy. They could try to clip it to the walls, but it's probably not smart to do that. I guess we'll see.
yeah. And then after that, if the player has died, it then brings up the pop-up that said, "Hey, you've died." And so then now we start with the updates. Which is that a normal thing to do, to render stuff out and then to do some sort of physics type style updating?
No, it's backwards, and you know, for the obvious reason that it means everything will be delayed one more frame than it should be. So usually the way you look at it is you want to process the input, do the update, and then render to reduce the total amount of time between when the input comes in and when the render. So typically what you're trying to do is process updates before you render. And if you process them after you render, you have to wait one more time of input processing, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. The order is not so important as what occurs next to each other, right? In other words, like, I mean, you could argue about what should come into exactly the order, but like, you really don't want to do probably what this is doing because you get the next frame back.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then it does a little checking for collision. If there's a collision, it does some basic, it does some sort of context, right? It does something there. I'm not quite sure exactly what it's doing there. I don't know what it's drawing. It looks like it's doing, that looks like yellow. It's drawing something one more time.
Looks like it's kind of doing blue delay, right? Because global alpha is 0.5, so it's going to do like a sort of a flying just a pale yellow.
Yeah, it looks like it's drawing the bullet one last time and then calling false. Because remember, this is a filter function. So we're actually going to take the array of projectiles, copy it, and only put the array of the projectiles left that are still alive.
Yeah. Wow, that is a very big. All right. Okay.
Yeah. We're here though, so it draws it one last time. You know what? One more time for the old times. You know what I mean? You know, for the old
And I guess
times. I assume that it's dying. Maybe it's like halfway there for one frame. That makes sense. And then it goes and checks collisions for the enemies, and kind of goes through this whole like enemy list and goes through every one of them. Sees if it actually hits any of them. It just does its distance based on 0.5. It doesn't really do anything other than like if it's close enough, you get hit.
I mean, since the things are roughly spherical, that seems good, right? I don't like. I mean, maybe that's the wrong number, but like a sphere will hit something when it's within that distance.
Yeah.
Roughly speaking, saving all the dimensions, so that seems okay. And I don't know how big the sphere is supposed to be. I guess I didn't.
I didn't pay close attention either. I just assumed that was correct because it does this whole thing. Right? It gets dy dx, and then
Yeah, that looks right. Yeah, that looks fine. That's just doing the basic.
Yep. So yeah, the distance betwixt the two is within. So quick question: do they normally do distance or distance squared? Because you kind of avoid. Do you like want to actually avoid the square root, or is that hey, we are so powerful now that we just don't even care if there's a square root in code anymore?
Yeah. Actual game developer would probably not do it this way unless they actually so you do still want to avoid square root, which is very expensive compared to something like supply. So if you look at the breakdown of cost things here, subtraction, you got two subtractions extremely cheap. You got one, you got an FMAD basically, a multiply and an FMAD extremely cheap.
What's FMAD?
An FMAD is a fuse multiply add. It's when you multiply two things together and add by one more thing. So like if you looked at that thing, it says dx times dx plus dy times dy. In that, you wouldn't have to do two multiplies in the FMAD. You could just do one multiply and one fuse multiply. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. Yes. Because the fuse multiply add just simply takes the result of dy times dy and adds it to dx. Right? It does those two operations in single order. Okay.
Exactly. And
by single, I mean there's many micro. It's a single micro op. Is that what the term is? And then there's actually many CPU ops underneath the hood. Did I get that correct?
No. Micro op is the CPU op. Micro op is the smallest thing. And those are all single micro op things. So in FMAD and add and subtract and so like those are all So yeah, like if you were writing this code, you probably wouldn't put the square root in there. Of course, that said, like obviously we know we're not thinking about performance right now. I mean, this is not even vectorized. So we're doing this like individually. So, I try to encourage people not to like overthink optimizations in a setting where they've clearly not been optimizing, right? So square root isn't horrible, right?
Okay.
Square root is, I mean, I don't remember what it would probably be, like maybe something like 16 cycles of latency or something like that. So it's not good, but it's not like hundreds of cycles of latency. Yeah, it's not like it used to be where it's like, oh my God, do not hit the square root. So we are much better at those than we used to be. So, it's fine. But anyway, so as you play down there, normally we don't do the square root because in this case, you're just going to check a distance. And so what you would normally do is square the distance and then check against the squared distance because that avoids square root altogether for free. So typically you would just square that 0.5, right? So you'd say 0.25 and check against the squared distance. That's what you would do. That's what game developer would normally do. Fine. Okay, yes.
Awesome. Okay. I like where this is going. Okay, then it does a little bit of damage to the enemy, projectile damage, and then it does another drawing, some sort of half drawing of what it appears to be the bullet's half drawing, and then it also checks to see if the enemy's health is below 0, and will also remove out the enemy at this point.
I like that it says drop ammo when enemy.
So,
did it drop any ammo?
It doesn't actually drop ammo. What it does is that it takes ammo and it creates 3 to 7 bullets. You can't really see it based on your screen. Here, I'll move back out a little bit. It creates it 3 to 7.
Yeah, thinking ammo.
Yeah, here. I'm going to put you down here and I'll put myself up here because I don't take as much.
Right, yes.
I have that whole transparency thing going on, so I can avoid a lot of it. So it actually creates an amount of 3 to 7 random bullets, and then just adds it to your bullets. So it doesn't actually drop anything; it just gives you bullets every time you kill an enemy.
It's a drop with auto collect.
Drop with auto collect, regardless of the distance, which is also kind of funny because we asked it to drop ammo when the enemy dies, and this is how it interpreted dropping ammo when the enemy dies.
So he's trying. You asked him to put in an ammo drop, and this is what he did. It's kind of hey Devin, nice try anyway.
What do you think about removing? How do you feel about just this overall thing of going through the enemies, finding ones that it hits? Removing the bullet, but also removing the enemy if the enemy is dead in this round based on when the bullet collision happens.
I mean, again, it's like pat the AI on the head and be like, "Well, you tried." The reason that we don't do this.
Sorry, you that's like around.
So the number one reason that you don't do that typically, just based on is you typically have to do some kind of an animation. So when the enemy dies, typically, in a modern game, it can't just disappear. That's like thinking of 1978,
Yeah.
Song or something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, or asteroids maybe, right? So really, really primitive, very hardware. Maybe that's what you might do. In a modern era, you typically need to show like the thing that you hit taking some damage, falling over, and it's got some state you need to preserve, like what was the carrying, armor, and all, So typically you're not going to just boom, delete the thing because you lose all the state information that you actually need to survive the correct death animation. So that's kind of reason number one. But reason number two, which is also very important for any kind of non-trivial game, is that typically your enemies have, any entity in the world is going to have references to it at some point. Like someone's targeting that enemy, or someone's chasing that enemy, or there's a state that wants to be able to talk about a particular enemy. And so your only two options there.
I'm laughing about something, buddy. Can I just read this to you really quickly? I'm sorry, it tickled me. It said, to be frank, with the amount of abuse hurled at Devin, any experience that would be reduced to a summer intern quality. Twitch was not very nice to us.
Oh, Twitch, come on now.
Sorry, it tickled me while you were explaining. Please, go on if you can remember where you're at.
Can understand that. But the poor AI, I mean, it's like this weird little orphan child. I mean, it's like horrible. So yeah, I mean, and it's not even gonna pay, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, but yes. So the other problem is that typically you need to be able to refer to entities, and so the way that we typically do that to avoid having yet another table is you just don't you leave that sort of empty array, you leave it as sort of a array when something's trying to kill a target that's dying, but you don't immediately remove it. That way anyone who's looking at that thing, who has like an indirect reference to that thing, isn't suddenly holding the wrong index for a dollar either. Right? Just imagine what's going to happen in this thing. Some other entities like trying to chase this person who's going to get shot here. And it's holding index 3, if I enemy that was. This guy dies, it gets removed from the array. Now that person who's looking at index 3 on the next frame goes, oh yeah, there's still an enemy there, but it's the wrong enemy now.
Yeah.
So there's now this hidden bug in the code that's kind of hard to see, and you'll see these manifestations of these bugs where people are like targeting the wrong thing, and like, well, how did that happen? It's like, oh, it's because he locked onto that enemy and was chasing him, and then that enemy died. And so then all of a sudden, the enemy that's in that slot is halfway across the world, and so he starts walking halfway. So you'll see stuff like that happen. So we try to eliminate those sorts of things because, like I said, the only alternative here is to have another lookup table and then use handles to do. Or you have this splice is like a broadcast, and everyone, when I delete it, everyone who has the handle has to update it. Right? You don't want to do those things.
Yeah.
So typically you do something like that. An index or a tag index is often what we'll do. We'll make the index. You'll use the thing that's the index plus like a unique identifier. And when you go to like target somebody using that, you compare the unique identifier versus their current unique identifier, and it doesn't matter that the extra one time.
Full table within like a minute would be, hundreds of thousands of entries. It'd just be gigantic.
Yes.
So that makes sense because that's effectively how hash tables work, right? Is that it doesn't just store the key you looked up, it also, or in the object column, the value column, it actually hiddenly stores the key that was also used to generate it. So that way you have this nice little kind of round reference there.
Exactly. So very common technique might be to just use a 64-bit integer to refer to entities, and every time you make each thing that's a loose or the never wrap that's the universe. And then what you'll do is you'll store that 64-bit integer in the entity string. And everyone wants to and it'll just be like the bottom few bits, like the bottom 16 bits or something will be the part that indexes the table, and the other 48 bits are just that unique key, and that way, every time someone goes to look at an entity, they just compare it. It doesn't before you broke us to die, so I'll take whatever action I take when I see the guy die.
Okay, nice.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Then check to see if the bullet is too old, and then we die. If it's too old.
Okay. All right. Limited lifetime bullet.
Yep. And then after that, we just draw it if it's in our view. So screen actually does this world screen. It does this whole world of screen thing where there's some sort of projection going on here. Obviously, don't really understand what this whole this is. So it does over a player angle. We looked up what this does. This normalizes the distance between two angles to be on -pi to pi, and it's actually the most efficient turn to get there.
Yeah.
A little arc tangent.
Give me 1 second. I'm sorry to be boring. I'm just going to read through this.
Det kan bli bra mycket så.
In fact, I'm speaking. Oh, alright, yeah. This is pretty interesting. What I guess the most interesting part of this to me is, I guess, I'm this is very atypical for how you would project something onto the screen. I guess is how I would say it. And so I'm wondering why, because my understanding of these AIs is like they're trained on code. So it had to have read this code, as soon as it read this code a lot. Like it had to think that this was like many people victims. I'm kind of surprised because normally when we project, it's much simpler than this. There is a little bit of the FOV usually gets baked down to a constant, so you wouldn't normally see it in the middle of the world to screen projection. And so yeah, I wish you could ask the AI like, what code were you reading where this was how they did it? Because no one would do it this way. It's very expensive. And ATAN2 in the middle of the projection function is just insane, right? ATAN2 is one of the most expensive things you could be doing. You would never, right?
But well, I didn't know that. But thank you for letting me know, because I always just thought A102 is the ultimate math function to just figure out everything with my vectors.
Yeah. You positively need to take an angle of something, then okay, maybe you called ATAN2, but yeah, ATAN2 doesn't exist in the CPU, right? Hasn't existed since well. Technically, there's still a legacy path for running it in x87, but can't really do that in mod. I expect it to work in modern context. So, assuming you're running modern x64 in normal architecture, there's no ATAN2. So ATAN2 is this big function with a bunch of polynomial approximations and branches to try and get you the bits that you asked for. In this case, correct me if I'm wrong, because you're the job doing extra, not me. It's all going to be double precision.
Numbers are typically, it's not quite double, but it's like 2 to the 53 minus 1 is the maximum integer you can represent, and I think there's some level.
That's double. That's double.
That's double. Okay, I know there's some oddities to the JavaScript number. I think it largely adheres to the 754, but I'm not exactly sure if it is fully that or how it plays around with the exact double representation. I think there's a tag that goes on.
It's possible that the ATAN2 is specified at less precision or something, but normally a double ATAN2, very expensive. You're talking about tons of those FMAPs we talked about before, branches, checking bits, range reduction, all this stuff. So ATAN2 is like a big, like way worse than the experiment you were worried about before. Way worse.
Okay.
Square root exists in the process, right? Square root's an actual. ATAN2 goes in.
That's just fun side quest. Why did ATAN2 used to exist and now it doesn't?
So Any question that starts with why about CPU architecture is always a little dicey to answer, so please take my answer with a pretty big grain of salt. But when they created the x87, you have to remember that this is back in the old days of computing, and x86 was the main chip, and x87 was the backbone processor. It's like a GPU, right? If you put it in, it has an additional chip, right? That makes sense?
Yeah.
Originally. And so it's for, scientific computing and doing math and stuff.
Yeah.
So for at least the first, N years of the x86 and x87, not only was it separate, it got eventually welded in. I think by the time you get to 486, it becomes part of the main die per week. And then 586 and on, it's always part of the main die. But for those first, 8086, 8286, 8386, I'm pretty sure it's always separate. And so it's doing, it's thinking of itself as a math chip. So it's 80-bit precision, more than double precision, more than 64.
Yeah.
80-bit precision, right? And a lot of precision. And it has everything. It's got sine and cosine, it's got A10, it's got square root, it's got everything, right? And they're all implemented as basically the chip itself, sitting around doing iterations of various algorithms like Forte, Newton-Raphson's, or whatever you're going to do. The chip itself, because it's faster at that time than actually processing instructions, the chip itself is going to do tons and tons of work. 50 cycles, 70 cycles, 80 cycles worth of sitting there doing work to produce the bits very slowly, right? When they go to x64, they're like, we're not doing this anymore, right? It's way faster if we just provide the fast, fundamental ops like plus and times and things like that. And then you just write in your code the little routine that does as much of the A10 precision as you want. It's not going to really be any faster if we microcode this, right? Like we're not really going to get much out of it. So I think typically what happened was at that point they're just like, we're only going to accelerate things we're actually going to accelerate without a significant amount of microcode. So they do put in things like table-driven divide, table-driven square roots. The chip is actually going to do it faster than you're going to do it. But they didn't bother doing all of these other things like at the A10-2. They're just like, we're not going to accelerate A10-2, which is not important enough. And the amount of chip real estate we spend on it, it's not.
Okay, so and that's because a lot of that you could develop your own 32-bit version of A10-2 that is a series of multiplies and whatever. And since we have fancy compilers these days, you're effectively getting the same amount of microcodes that they would be able to do it in. Is that like the basic argument? And then you get to choose the precision, which allows you to actually have like a much faster version.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, I think what you're saying is true, but also it's just like I think they didn't want to add instructions to the architecture that they weren't actually going to accelerate. They could, right? They could go, we're going to make a really fast A10-2, and they could put in lookup tables and because there's these specific algorithms that work, especially with things like an A10-2, or like sine and cosine, periodic functions like that. They have these algorithms like the Cordic algorithm and things like that that are specifically made for doing little add shifts, like repeated adds and shifts that hardware can do very well. That can rapidly converge on the precision that you need by adding one bit every time you do those. And you can do several of those a cycle sometimes and so on and so forth. But they have these little lookup tables that put in there, all this sort of stuff, right? And so if they were like, look, we analyzed all this code, and A10-2 is like a big deal for all of our customers, they absolutely could accelerate A10-2, right? But what happens is they look and they go, there aren't all these games out there who are bottlenecked on A10-2, whereas if we gave them back A10-2, everyone goes from 30 frames a second to 120 frames a second, so get that A10-2 in there, it's worth the chip for this thing. They look and they go, A10-2, we can avoid it most of the time. Sometimes it is there, and yeah, okay, so it takes 100 cycles to do it for something that we've got all these FMAT, whatever. Right? It just doesn't end up being something that's going to be worth the chip real estate. So that's why they don't put it in. They could. It's just not worth it. Okay, that's nice.
Okay, hey, that was great. All right, so we're going to go on. It does a little bit of drawing of a smoke tracer, which I have yet to see.
Where was that? What's that?
I don't know. We have yet to see it. It draws a yellow bullet, draw smoke tracer. Not really sure what this comment means. with this right here. So it looks like it does it again. It kind of looks like the same thing twice, almost to the T.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there's any smokiness about the first.
Yeah, it's very smoky. And then it draws a yellow bolt.
Okay.
Yeah, the arc obviously
So-
being 2 pi, so that's the circle, that's the whole little thing.
I mean, is what we're seeing, and this is, I'm just asking you because now you know a lot more about this AI stuff than I do. So you actually have the tiny red. So you've had a little bit of insight.
Just a very small peak behind it.
So here's what kind of confuses me about this. So once again, like looking at this code, like this is awful, right? Is one thing I would say. You look at how I mean, you know, I'm a person who doesn't abstract unnecessarily, right? I'm always telling people,
Yeah.
unnecessary abstraction is very bad. Don't abstract things. Just write the code, do what it needs to do, and you're done. So you know if it's coming from me that you're getting the least, you know, you can find people who would tell you to abstract out 10x more times than me. So I'm like way at the bottom of that level, right? But I'm just looking at this and just think about what would happen if we changed a little bit about how the projection. Like look at all this stuff that they're doing here, like with the screen x minus math, angle times width. Like, you would never want that expression to be repeated this many times. It makes it impossible for me to change what I'm doing the display. All of this stuff should be in some kind of standard projection model that we're just using, right? And so again, I'm wondering, what was this screen now? This must have been trained on real garbage code. I mean, it's just whatever's on it.
Well, first off, yes, it was trained on garbage code because, I mean, we've all been guilty of writing garbage code, and we actively attempt not to write garbage code. And so I am never surprised when I come across garbage code on the internet. And it's even worse under people's personal projects who don't care, right?
Yeah, I think we're seeing that now. It's like, right, you know, what do I put on GitHub? Like, I don't put any of my real stuff on GitHub, right? It's all this, like, one-off thing, like, oh, someone wanted that, all right. Here's this garbage thing on GitHub, right? And so, yeah, I mean, that's what this looks like. It looks like it's being trained on someone who typed something in and they really just did not care about it at all, or maybe they were nervous. That's also okay. I don't want to unfairly diss anyone who's written code like this. When you're starting out, you're going to write code like this. That's fine too. But that's not what I want to say. I don't want to go back to when I first written the program.
It's obviously the hard work of information hungry element, which is the whole pre-train process. Is that you just need millions upon millions of lines, so you don't really need to be very selective. You're not grabbing from the CarMax of the world, you're grabbing from everybody.
Yeah, the CarMax is 0.001% of the source code, which is 99 like this side has. So yeah, you know, it's kind of crazy all this stuff it's doing like that, and I just wanted to mention that part because in addition to doing this, like a lot of this stuff is not necessary. You're repeatedly taking sines and cosines and angles for no reason, all these other sort of things. In addition to that, you will just also have this fact that this is very good. If you wanted to now modify this to do a different method of projecting things onto the screen or a different idea of what the world space was, or anything like that. This is just very fragile, and it forces you to go edit all of this stuff. Like, you know, you're going to be multiple times just in this one, just on the bullet tracer. Yeah. Just on this one bullet, there's 5 different. So they all have to like, well, weird. Things will show up in different places. So, yeah. But anyway,
all right, so by the way, I did want to say one thing that's probably unique that I think really goes to show the difficulty of the maintainability of AI is that, remember, this was over the course of 126 commits to a GitHub project and over the course of 8 hours.
yes.
Devin or any AI doesn't really have the good citizen. And the good citizen, of course, is somebody who, when you come across a piece of code, you see how, oh, okay, this place over here, that's, you know, ugly, I know I can kind of make these 2 things really nice, and I bet you some point in the future we're going to want potatoes on the screen, so therefore I should probably, you know, I know it's coming, I should probably think of a way to reconcile this right now. There's no good citizen. It's just politicians, that's it.
No, It's a big one. I used to call it static discipline. There's this thing in in electrical engineering where they're like, whenever a signal comes in and you're designing something, you want the signal that comes out to be at least as clean or cleaner than the signal that came in, right? And it's like that's when you're looking for what you want to do, I'm going to open something, change it. I don't want to just do the minimum work necessary to change it, right? It's really better.
Yep, we call it good citizen, which is a two-way sword, by the way. Because the two-way sword, of course, is that you look, you draw a piece of code, and you go, okay, this is what good citizens do. And so good citizens also make pathways to hell pretty quick as well. Which is like propelling the wrong idea of the code base.
I see. Okay, fair enough.
All right,
Good citizens gone bad.
good citizens gone wild. So anyway, so going to the bottom. If we finally get to the bottom, we return true. And that will not filter out this bullet. And so every single frame obviously copies the bullet list, all active bullets, but I mean, largely bullets are short-lived. There's not going to be very many of them. You could argue this is fine, whatever, but nonetheless, there it is. Then you draw arms. You may have missed the arms.
I did miss the arms. Can you?
So if you start right here, this is one of the arms. Here. Okay, so watch this. Restart this really quickly. If I move iframes, hold on, I'm just gonna do this. If I do W, they move up and down. Oh my god. D, yeah. Yes. I know, it's pretty great, huh? It's actually a free, he didn't know anything. Oh, I just realized I found a bug.
A bug in this code? No.
Yeah, I know. Alright, there we go. So we got that thing down here. We'll leave it. Okay, so we draw the arms, we draw the HUD. Now, we're getting into the part that I thought was really, really, really interesting coming up here. Then we get this whole...
Prime, I don't know if you're in a rush here, but you're kind of skipping the money shot there. I want to see that draw arms.
Oh, the draw arms.
You gotta at least show me the draw. He's got a little bob. Like, it's moving up and down and stuff. Like, that is...
So this is something I don't quite understand.
Sign of swing offset. Look at him go. Look at Devin go.
This is something I don't understand, which is this right here. The number of frames is the width of the canvas. We're going to do all the pixels of the canvas. We're going to go over all of them. And if I equals the canvas width between these two locations,
Yeah.
which is either going to be, or it's, wait a second, actually I didn't even read this. Okay, actually they do this in another location, but this is actually way more funny.
Actually, what they do. Yeah.
They do one check on point 3 and one check on point 7, and then I need to look at that. That's so good. Oh my god! They loop the entire canvas just drawn on two constants.
You laugh, but Devin here is just using a implicit function for arm rendering, right? The sign distance field people in the audience are cheering right now, right? Because they know that the way you render something is you loop over all pixels and you ask, is it this pixel? And that is what Devin has done here. He's going implicit on you.
Yeah.
Now, granted, in this case, that's a really bad idea, but, he gets the concept. He knows what it is. I love it. I love it so much. And the math sign player arm swing offset is even better. This is great. This is the best code. This is the best code in the game. And that's it. We can look at the rest, but I want it to be known that I think that's the best code.
Okay, well, wait to be impressed. We still got a lot left. And I told you that I didn't look at that code very strong, other than I laughed at it drawing arms. I wish I would have looked at it, seeing that it's actually just two. It's literally just two constants. You could just use that one, right? Like that's position 1. Like doesn't that value?
Yes. So it must think. I mean, in its whatever the AI calls for a frame, its giant parameter matrix, right? It must be like, well, they told me to do array marcher, right?
Yeah.
And the way you render stuff in array marcher is I gotta go and look at all of the columns and see like which ones should be which size. So I gotta draw the arms, that's what I'm gonna do, right? So
Yeah.
I kinda like it. I mean it's very AI, right? It's very AI. You can see why it probably did that.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair, multiplying the canvas by 0.3. No, that should only yield one number. So this is only drawing one pixel, right? I'm not. This is one pixel. Effectively, this is one eye, and then this is one eye.
Yeah.
Right? There's no way this is capturing some group of eye.
Correct. It's not captured. It's just well, I mean, that's based on my limited understanding of canvas. I'm assuming that the way that the canvas works is that one integer number is one pixel of canvas. Right? I mean, I assume that's what happens.
I said the width is pixels. I said the width is pixels. But even if it wasn't pixels, even if it was foibles, right? A word we don't even understand. This is a constant. This only boils down because it's a math on floor, so this only boils down to a singular number. So this thing would only hit it once on its scan across the whole list.
Absolutely, it only hits it once, but I'm just pointing out that could map to multiple pixels if the canvas width is not. It's not talking about users. That's not about that. But I assume canvases have a transform, so I'm assuming all of this is kind of predicated on like. One of the interesting things about this is canvas.width probably isn't actually going to work if you've got a transform selected in there. So I'm assuming that there isn't a transform selected or something.
Yeah. I have no idea.
Yes.
Alright, anyways, okay, we got some good stuff. We got the HUD, the heads-up display. So this does actually do what appears to be some pretty basic. Hey, here's your health bar, here's your gun icon, here's your crosshair. So I'd actually say this was not the world's worst code going on here.
Okay.
Alright.
Max bullets. Bullets over max bullets.
Yeah, classic.
Love it.
Love it. Alright, so this we're starting to get into the interesting world, which is the keys world. When you see the input is a very special beast, and it gets the most special during the player movement. So now remember, at this point we've rendered walls, we've rendered enemies, then we updated bullet position and destroyed enemies if we've hit them. And now we're getting into updating the arms. Of course, we update the arms so that way they're rendered differently next frame.
Yep.
We render the arm at the current state and then move it through the next state. And then we get into player movement. Now, this is where for me, this is my personal favorite function.
Okay.
So I'll try to do my best to kind of do the basic one I can see right away. Is that I'm not 100% sure what's going on here, other than we are just calculating the player's angle, multiplying it by our acceleration, and setting this to our velocity. I think we're effectively making it so that we can't exceed a certain amount of speed, right? This is doing some sort of normalization over the XY axis, but I think it doesn't quite normalize. It's not like an eigenvector normalization. I think we're kind of getting into a position where it's like too much or too little.
I don't think that. I think all that's doing is just applying acceleration. So all it's doing. So math.
Well, now it's math.
All that's doing is turning an angle into a vector that points along.
That's fast.
So all this is doing is effectively saying player dot velocity plus equals player dot acceleration. The cosine and sine just makes sure that the acceleration goes in the direction the player is turning it. Yeah, so this is just
Okay. I couldn't remember math.cosine and English.
Cosine and sine, we don't produce speed. But again, we're adding that to an existing. So the reason we're multiplying by acceleration is to say this direction, accelerate this much along that axis. Yeah, along that direction. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, that's what I meant by normalization, is that it's gonna create a fixed amount of acceleration that's always one.
No, it's going to create an amount of acceleration that is whatever the acceleration is.
That's what it's whatever this number is. It's just ensuring that one acceleration unit is applied correctly according to your direction. Explain these things. I'm not. Easily do it. The velocity minus the velocity. Apply a little bit of friction. Once again.
or Devin. Normally, we would even do that. It's just compute the acceleration. So I mean, so he's got time. Player got acceleration to acceleration. It's track acceleration from player acceleration.
Yeah. Then we apply a little bit of friction. Friction being classic point
Extensive.
delta here that actually is
Yeah.
oh, you're totally right because this is something velocity is also frame rate sensitive. There's no delta going on here, so you're not even getting like a proportional amount of acceleration based on the amount of time passing.
Yeah, so once again, we would normally, if you're running this in normal code, you're going to have some kind of a critical frame right there that's going to be timestamp. And even if we decide we're going to be, like, our physics frame rate is locked, so in other words, we're going to just go, like, the physics frame rate, we're always going to update physics like 60 frames a second or something, no matter what happens, no matter what our display is or whatever. Even if you do that, you typically use the time step in there because you may decide to make a different decision later. Like, oh crap, our physics was too slow. We're going to reduce it down to 30 frames per second to the time step. You need to be able to tune that function. With code like this, you can't tune it at all, so it's just, it is what it is. And now you have to go back and tune all of your different values. So like player acceleration and anything else that happens every time step, they all have to be tuned. Again, so you typically don't really want to do that. I mean, you can do it this way, but you're buying into that sort of, okay, now we have to remember to tune all the constants for a frame rate separately. But keep going.
Yeah. Sorry, someone asked, does player delta acceleration change based off delta time? I don't think player acceleration in this case changes off delta time because it is just a constant right here. But typically you want something that's, because if for whatever reason, something horrible happens on your system and you have a half second delay between two frames, you want to be able to apply a half second worth of movement, not 1 frame. That's why in some games, in the early games, you get that slow movement, right? Or when something like really intense is happening on the screen, you're like, ooh. It's only applying frame-dependent movement.
Yes, and even if you don't care, like I said, even if you're going to use a fixed time step, which is totally valid way to write a game, you typically just want the code based on a time step anyway, so that you can change what that fixed time step is going to be throughout the course of development without having to retune a bunch of those. Yeah, so you just, it's just that what I'm really talking about is just a cleaner way to write the code, right?
Yeah.
So it's cleaner if you acknowledge the time step, even if you then don't decide to make it be variable for other reasons, which there are reasons you wouldn't want a variable time step. So even if you decide not to make it variable, you still kind of want it. But it's all right. You did your best.
That's downtime. Yeah. Then we check for collisions.
Okay, so check wall condition.
So it's going to go through every single wall and see if you are within this wall map from.
Give me 1 second. So we're going through. Negative terminology is like.
I have no idea what it's saying.
Where shouldn't there be a lookup into some?
Oh, I see what it's doing. Yes. Okay, I see what it's doing. Yes, thank you. So here's the map.
Let's see that. Can you scroll that up a bit so it's not so I'm not obscuring it? Ah, okay. There we go.
Yeah, so it's only checking. It's only checking the squares.
Thanks. I get it. So basically, like, this is not really wall pollution. This is more like tile pollution. These aren't walls. These are blocks that are filled in. All right. Yeah. So I mean, again, not fabulous for a number of reasons. Like, if anything, such as a projectile or a player was moving fast enough to go more than one tile in a frame, you would tolerate the wall here. So. Yeah, this isn't really going to cut it, Devin. Sorry.
Also, I do love this right here. Use bitwise or 0 for faster integer conversion. And then you just never use those again.
But it will. You never. That's why you want to make it fast. Since they're not used, you didn't want them to take a long time. You see.
genius, Case. This is why we invite you on. You just see, you understand Warcraft way better than me, because I would have never saw that.
Clearly, clearly right there. I knew it. Oh wow. Okay. All right. That's good.
So we make a check. So if you're not on the wall, then we set your new X and Y.
Alright.
Else, if you are on the wall, we reset your velocity.
Wait, how do you get out of?
Well, that's the thing, is it actually calculates your next position. So, I believe this is one thing all physics engines do, right? Is that they actually,
I see.
one step calculates the next direction or next
They just
position.
Okay.
Then you check, then you apply.
That's really risky, and I would not ever recommend doing that. And so the reason is, take a look at how this code works. This is just like, you will get stuck in the wall, right?
Yeah.
So here's why. So if you look at how it's doing it, it's doing a standard physics calculation. So
It's like,
that velocity, right, gets updated over time. Like, I'm pulling down the key, I move a little bit faster. Yeah, it's storing the velocity, right? So it's getting faster every frame, it's getting faster. Up to the friction, so that multiplied by friction there is what's keeping it from going unbounded. It's just going infinitely fast.
Yeah.
But you're going to accelerate up to that point. If you accelerate to right? Tumbling yourself into a wall. Now you won't be able to fall because on the first frame of this time, your velocity won't be as high as it was going into the wall because you only had one frame of acceleration to get it started. So you won't be able to get far enough out of the wall to pass the wall check. See what I'm saying? This is a classic. Like, everyone's written this code before when they were a kid. So this is a classic case of the wall. So Devin, no, like do not like this. This is I got stuck in the wall code. You should be able to, if you drove around this thing, you should be able to get stuck in the wall and walk the truck. Like,
Alright, so now, time for my truly favorite piece of code. So after we've done our movement based on the WDSP, we've applied our friction, and we've checked for collisions. We then apply the A and D strafing keys.
oh, so that there's one frame extra of lag on A and D than there is on S and W.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's because we told Devin later on to change A and D from rotation to strafing. So it's just like, I know where the input function is. I got you, dog.
And the rotation velocity, so this game has lag on rotation, so when you move the mouse, it like slows down when you stop moving instead of just being instant.
I think
Is that
so.
what I'm reading?
I think that's what's happening. I'll have to go look at the input code, but yeah.
Woof. Okay.
All
Alright.
That's what I thought. I was like, great. You never want acceleration velocity.
Oh, you know what? That must be because it was you know what? It probably was thinking keyboard input. That's probably what it was. Because if you're doing keyboard input, then you do need, right? She was probably thinking keyboard input, and then maybe chat was like, no, make it mouse control or something, and it was like, oh, and then it just changed to mouse control. Thinking about it,
No, but that makes perfect. That actually does make perfect sense because it was originally. It went first. A and D were turning, and W and S were forward, and then space bar was shoot. But then we included the mouse, and then
Yep.
okay, wow.
That's exactly. And that makes perfect sense with what you described the timeline as. Also, why it happened separate, like second, because they're not thinking this could possibly hit you in the wall. Because they're like, well, this is some other velocity thing that's going to have to do with rotation, right?
Yeah.
So of course it doesn't go with the collision detection stuff, right? But then it gets changed to velocity, and so now it's just a weird, like, laggy, will get applied next time update, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have. I mean, the thing is Devin's not a gamer. Right? Like, I hate to say this, he's just not a gamer. So, he's never been on Fortnite saying that the real reason why he's losing is that he lost a frame, right? He's going against someone that's on 144 and he's only on 60.
Right.
So, he's never had that kind of moment of losing. And so, I think he just doesn't even think about the full loss of a frame here. It's pretty much losing at a game.
He's just like pointing straight up at the sky and trying to figure out how to turn, right? Like he's just spinning around in a circle like that's Devin.
Yeah.
And he's like, I just came here for the Ariana Grande concert. I don't know what's going on. How do you? thing.
Snow will be playing on Fortnite. Alright, so that's been nice playing. But like I said, I truly did find that file to be just a gem. I love the fact that it went backwards like that. It just, I don't know what it is. It just was so beautiful to me. All right, so now that we've gone through, we've drawn the walls, drawn the enemies, updated the bullets, and then deleted enemies and drawn the projectiles, or deleted the projectiles based on what happened. Then update the player movement. We now update the enemies.
Right. Okay. And the enemies, by enemies, you mean hot anime waifus. Why are they your enemy in this game? Did anyone explain how that, like, why are you shooting at them? What's going on? Like, how chat, I feel like that's chat's fault. I don't think that's Devin's fault.
No,
that's an explanation for that.
it's definitely not Devin's fault. Okay.
Okay.
This is just Doom with anime waifus. It's what they called Chussie, because obviously, I think the whole joke was cheese pussy is what they were trying to say, because they couldn't say pussy, so they said Chussie. I don't know. I have no idea what. I honestly don't know. This is just me acting like Devin trying to grab the attention.
Somehow, out of this, out of the evidence.
Alright, so we are now going to update enemies after we check to see if there were any enemies in the array, which we now actually check by seeing if enemies is an array.
Whoa there, Tom. What is it doing? It's using the POW function to square the value?
It sorts
What
it.
the heck, Devin?
It also sorts the enemy.
Devin! What? Who's like, I gotta square this thing, I'm gonna whip out POW.
And then sport it.
Jeez.
So not only do they square, but they also sport it right afterwards to get the proper distance.
Right, because heaven forbid we sort on squared this. Yet again. Okay. Alright, so really, Devin is really bringing his A game on that one. It's A game, is it? I guess I don't want to. I haven't heard A game. I don't know what Devin is technically, so I'll just say it's A game.
I've been itzing and they because it's not. I don't like to anamorphize things, and so I'm just like, it's an it. Really,
it's an it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's thing. Yeah, it's really bringing its A game there, but fine. So we've got our sorted list of enemies, which I'm assuming is something that it did because it remembered having seen that you're supposed to sort these things for some reason, and it doesn't really realize that the reason is to insert them in the draw order. So, oh well.
When you're eating enemies, do you really need it to be sorted if you're just what's it called, updating their movements?
No, but it probably was like, well, I do need to sort them because normally the way one of these raycasting engines work, right, is you draw front to back, and you need to draw the enemy at the correct time, so the walls that were in front of it and the walls that are behind it wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
And so you typically do in an old school Doom engine, like Doom, Quake has a C button. Doom doesn't have a C button, so you had to draw things in exactly the right order to look right. So it's probably that's what it's thinking, but then I'm guessing it really doesn't need this list for anything it actually does, because we saw the enemies just disappear. Like, so they don't get sorted properly, right?
Well, not only that, but remember, you may have forgot this, we already rendered the enemy. We're just sort enemies by distance for proper Z indexing.
Right.
Yeah. Like, what are we doing it for?
We're sorting it, and then we're gonna move them so the sort will be wrong, right? Like we're literally like undoing the sort we just did.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, again, E+ for effort here for Devin, but it's doing things that are sort of like what it's very target focused, right?
Yeah.
It's doing things that it saw around a rig that's right. It's like, oh, I think there's a sort. But yeah, there is.
I think the thing to draw from this is that, again, people always forget this, and this is just like such an important point. I did this earlier on stream, which is with the new model from Agility. If you ask for quick sort implementation, in JavaScript, it will do a quicksort implementation, but the quicksort implementation will contain popping arrays at everybody. There'll also be and login in memory usage as well. That's because the code that it sees is like that in JavaScript. It's really good at guessing JavaScript. If you ask it for C or Go, it won't copy the array in plain spot. For the most part. I think it sometimes screws that up. It's it's not really even Devin's fault. It's whatever the underlying model. First off, it is Devin's fault in the sense that it put this here, but it's not really because the underlying model's like, the most likely thing that should be happening is probably a Z indexing, and that needs to happen at some point. So it's happening now. And now we're just happening.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And probability, right? So yeah. It makes sense.
And so that's why sometimes I think the enemies are in correct order by the sheer accident that this will work 99% of the time. But if
you'll only see it wrong for one frame.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, because for the most part, the enemies will just stay in their proper Z indexing. Because you're just sorting every time, then moving, sorting, and they're moving towards you, so it's always like the same. It's pretty cute. All right. Anyways,
I mean, they're also just an amorphous white blob, so how would you even know if they sorted it correctly would be my other question. Like, it's two white blobs it's two hot waifus on top of each other.
That's what we're talking about.
Two hot animated waifus on top of each other. And so, how could you even tell? Just a big blob of hot animated waifu drawing. And we can't disentangle that, so...
Yeah.
Notice the sort.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But the people who did notice it, man, would they be triggered?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They'd be on there talking about the difference in the translation, the slight difference in the translation. The sword. So this is the sword order, but point out we're going backwards.
Yeah.
And I'm not
So we're going backwards.
You could have always just went A to B.
You could have, but we didn't. So we're going backwards.
I mean, it happens. Sometimes you gotta walk backwards. Right? Okay. I heard it was compare I and 0 that is compare.
Very good.
Alright, so we grab the enemy, and we want to make sure that apparently in case there is no enemy, which would be strange, or the enemy's X and Y are numbers, we just don't do anything with that enemy. We get
okay, so that right there is also kind of interesting because that suggests that all that stuff I said before where it's like we don't really want to delete enemies, we typically just like have some way of marking them they're dead. It's like it did that. Devin actually went ahead and had a way of marking enemies as being dead, but it just doesn't use them.
Yeah, it doesn't understand how to use it. But conceptually, that idea is there somewhere in its LLM, or it's just
it's in the matrix.
But they're not referencing it by index, so it's not actually going into this global index where it's actually grabbing out things that don't exist. Instead, it's just like, here's an array and we just remove enemies when they're dead. So that problem doesn't exist, but it
literally has the code that you would expect to see if this was a mark as dead algorithm, because you don't want to update an enemy who's dead. So you put this code at the top that says if the enemy's dead, don't process it, which is exactly what it did. It just never probably does that, right?
Yes.
It removes the enemy from the array, so why would it be marking? So it's got both ideas, they just don't go together. Right?
Yeah.
So again, it's kind of interesting when you can see the AI got all these ideas that doesn't know how to combine them. It doesn't know how they go together. It's kind of fascinating to see what to do.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Yeah, this is such a good in-depth review because, I went through this earlier and I didn't see half of this stuff, and now that we're going back through, it's just like, holy cow. You can just watch the ideas just splashing into each other.
Yeah.
Alright, so now I'm not squirting this time. Nice. Not only can we calculate the squirt of everything and log n times, we give it another n just in case.
And I find this really interesting. It would be kind of fun. So I'm imagining Devin is not great, or is Devin like Devin's not like on the higher end of code generators.
I assume that the underlying model is pretty good. It's either 4.0 or 0.1 or 1.01 maybe. Because they're pretty cheap. These new ones are getting cheaper for the inference, or at least they're selling it to us cheaper. So my assumption is that they're actually, because obviously devs would be motivated to use the best inference because for them it's about capturing market.
So, okay, I don't know then, I'm just gonna say this, I didn't realize that. What I was gonna say is, it's pretty interesting to look at this, because if this actually is a reasonable representation of where AI is, yet it's a lot less hard than it's like.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is because I would have thought that by now, with so much training and all of this work and millions of dollars being spent, I would have thought that AI should have gotten to the point where their internal matrix representations of what they're doing would at least collapse down. To do it one way, right? But it seems like they still haven't gotten to that point. Like, it's still at the point where the context around taking the distance completely determines how it decides to take the distance. Like, in one case, it's going to do this predictive pound thing, and in another case, it's going to do this very here, right? With the normal just time version, and it's just kind of interesting to me that those things have location in the weights training. There's still tons, like, distance as a concept is still strewn clearly throughout that weight matrix, and I didn't realize that we still haven't gotten there yet. So I guess AI's got a way to go.
Yeah. It definitely, I mean, but again, it all makes sense because it's all just stats, right? We're just playing the game of stats.
Yeah.
And so this is where we make it.
Yeah.
All right, so if, let's see, damage player remove enemy on collision. So if the distance is less than 0.5, we just chose that as, that's enemy sphere plus my sphere is 0.5. It will do a max, it will reduce the player health by that. It will splice out the enemy, which, by the way, that's why it walks backwards. Oh, we're walking backwards because we're live updating the array underneath the hood. You can do that. That makes sense, right? Because then it won't actually interrupt that. And then the weird part is it actually does this thing right here. The single player death actually puts on here a pop-up, which the player death is also in the game loop as well.
I was going to say, with that create awesome pop-ups? Does that create multiple pop-ups?
My guess is that let's see how let's go in here. It actually grabs it and then just changes the display.
So that's okay. Like you can do that as many times as you want. Yeah, won't create a bug. Just make it very, very visible. Double check. Yeah. Okay.
And then we continue to run the check just in case. We do data now. I also found this pretty interesting. That we're actually not using a uniform past in time in which you can do simulation tests and all that. We're actually getting real time throughout the program. Data now actually shows up many, many times, along with timestamp that's through request animation frame.
I appreciate the nod to performance here, where they're like, look, this could scale to a lot of enemies. We don't want to be calling 5 path on every frame, so we're going to rate limit that. Right? We're going to rate limit that.
It starts the enemies every single frame. Yeah. It's like, what is I have anyways?
Trying to stay fine away from the player. Getting star probably to find the path that gets to the player that way to a wall.
Yeah, so I see a problem. So we had a primary queue. We've already said.
Yeah.
Let's see, we queue the start. So this looks like we're doing Dijkstra's, or is it, let's see a heuristic yet to even see a star. And so we DQ it, we do some basic checking, do a little bit of reversing if we reverse the path. Then like close from use the key as a string.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 notes.
Yeah, well now we're seeing why it needs to be rate limited.
Alright, so we just check all the numbers. We're just checking again the 9 or the 8 squares bracket. To need some consistency to the square. Oh, okay.
Decent, nice straight color for that, yeah. Okay, so I think it's trying to do it properly.
Start.
Yeah.
First.
Okay, cool. This okay, good job. Yeah, this is literally this Dijkstra plus HVAC, the heuristic function.
Yeah, it's
Sorry about how they
basically
deliver.
like just, and we prefer to
Okay,
only
to that.
search things that would be kind of on the shortest path from there.
Yeah.
Just in case that's open,
No, man.
and that tends to be
Okay, my man.